All right, we appear to be back.
Okay.
Good grief. Don't know why that happened. Are you getting me live there,
Yeah, I want
live?
you. Let's just take a second here while we here. Can you?
Yeah, I think we're okay here. Let me just to get my myself together. I don't know why we lost our. We totally crashed. We had a complete crash, and I don't know why that happened. So I apologize. And looks like we're back online. So
We're good
all's
to
good.
go.
So I was in the middle of talking about the Fort Dix McGuire shooting, and I didn't really know where I left off. So
Okay, I think it would be best to back up a couple of minutes, and when you're done that story, I still want to thank certain people, and let's see where we are here.
All right. Well, basically, long story short, I mean, I was just talking about George Filer's involvement in this and how he was a second corroborating witness to Jeffrey Morse. And as I said, I think that this came through before we crashed. I have total confidence and credibility in George Filer, and in fact, his career is a matter of record. So that's that. And there was an analysis done by the National Institute for Discovery Science, that is NIDS, that's Robert Bigelow's group, back in the 1990s. They, I think, totally mistakenly said that this was a hoax. I think they're completely wrong about that. NIDS did some very good work on the black triangles and some other things, cattle mutilations, but they completely botched this one. So I'll leave it at that. So that's the Fort Dix shooting. A couple of others. I'm going to take it into the mid-1980s, and then we're going to end this, and Tracy's going to come back on. So about 10 more minutes. Is that fine with you?
Yep.
Okay. An obvious military case is the Rendlesham Forest. That is the Bentwaters case of December 1980. And no one died in that. That was a landing. But someone was seriously affected. That is John Burroughs, U.S. airman at the time, who, you have a landed craft. Burroughs, along with James Penniston, is out there on the first night, gets fairly close to this craft. In the aftermath of that, I will just point out that elevated levels of radiation were measured in this. So anyway, years later, Burroughs developed serious heart issues that were, I would say, explicitly related to his involvement in this incident. And, I could probably just let John talk about it. I think he has talked about it at great length in many, many cases. He had a nightmare trying to get access to his service records to prove this, but he was indeed able to do so and underwent an operation that probably saved his life. In fact, certainly saved his life. The UK Condign report from the late 1990s does make a direct connection between, I think it's terahertz frequencies of UAP, that is UFOs, and damage to human biology. I think it's a clear reference to the Rendlesham case. Another incident, we can argue if it's a military case. I would say it's military related, is the famous Cash Landrum case. This is December 29th, 1980. This is in Texas, a town called Huffman. Very important case, not simply for the sighting of this craft itself, this glowing diamond-shaped object, but because of the military helicopters that were following it. Also, and for our purposes tonight, the physical effects on the witnesses and the incredible stonewalling about it by the United States government. This involved a woman named Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's grandson, Colby Landrum. He was 7 years old. They were driving along a highway called the Cleveland Huffman Road, not a highway, a road. At about 9 p.m, they see this bright diamond-shaped object comes low over the road ahead of them, just 25 feet from the ground. It's super low, makes a beeping noise of some sort. They feel this tremendous heat coming from it. It's so bright that it lit up the night. It hurt their eyes. They see a row of blue lights across part of it, and what looked like flames apparently shooting out from beneath it. So Betty stops the car. She was driving. They all get out. There's helicopters around that they can see, these double Chinook style helicopters. Colby, the boy, is terrified. He runs back into the car with his grandmother, but Betty stays out the longest, and she gets the most damage from this. Um, the They estimated that there were probably about 20 helicopters making a huge amount of noise. Anyway, the object then glides off, and there's other witnesses. I'm going to skip that. The main thing here is that all three of these main witnesses immediately developed symptoms that were consistent with severe radiation poisoning, particularly Betty, who had the most exposure to this object. She easily had it the worst. She had severe headaches, nausea, diarrhea, swelling of her neck, blotches on her face. Her eyes actually swelled shut at one point, and the blotches became blisters. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks as a burn victim. All right, really serious. Vicky and Colby had similar symptoms, just a little less intense. So for the rest of her life, Betty Cash was trying to get answers, and it was totally stonewalled by authorities. Legal action, that got her nowhere. U.S. military issues one denial after another. John Schuessler was deputy director of MUFON and project manager with McDonnell Douglas. He investigated. He tried to help out. Alan Holt, if someone know who Alan Holt was, I've known Alan. He's an aerospace scientist. He also helped with the investigation. So, this thing could have been one of ours, so to speak. It could have been a military. Lots of speculation, a couple of claims that it was. There's also claims that it was not one of ours and that the military helicopters were vectored in to monitor this and force it to land. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it was one of our nuclear-powered prototypes of some sort. Betty did develop breast cancer. She did have to have a mastectomy. She eventually did die of cancer. I think most people, that was years later, but attributed it to as an after effect of this. No one would take responsibility for these helicopters. So whatever the provenance of the object, I would say this is significant. It was able to, this is a genuine UFO. It was using principles of technology that were not supposed to exist in 1980, and definitely a severe case. I want to talk about one. This, I think, will probably be the last case I get into, and it's a Russian case. It's a fascinating case from 1984. So we're dealing with the later part of the old Soviet Union. And just before the Gorbachev era, before everything started really to change in the Soviet Union, Russia had a lot of dramatic UFO cases, and some that did result in deaths. One was from September 7th, 1984. So you've got a passenger plane flying north to a city in Estonia called Tallinn. So it's near Minsk at this time. So that's in Belarus. If you look at a map, that's north of Ukraine, in between Russia and Poland. All right, that's Belarus, just south of the Baltic states, so south of Estonia. It's moving north on that. So we're at about 4:10 in the morning, so it's early. So at that time, the pilots of this plane, and I don't know if this is a military plane or a passenger plane. It's a T-134A. They did fly passengers, but there were military components as well to this. Anyway, I think this was a passenger plane. The pilots saw what looked like a large, bright, kind of a stretched out star, I guess you could say. And they see it directing a thin ray of light toward the ground. Then they see this ray that is shooting then open up to become like a cone. And then they see a second cone of light. And then they see a third cone of light. So they're looking at this, and their estimation is that this is less than 100 miles away, maybe like 80 miles away. He draws a sketch of what he saw. The light then turned this blinding ray directly at them, and it then appeared to explode, and it was replaced by this greenish cloud. Now, maybe this was a test of some sort, all right? And a few people later argued that this was a Soviet military test. But here's the thing. I don't believe that that's the cause of this, because right after this, whatever this thing was showed some unbelievable maneuverability. According to the pilots, this greenish cloud approached them very rapidly. Then it stopped dead. Then it descended. Then it shot straight up. Then it moved left and right. Finally, it got in front of their plane and paced them very close, very close. It got so close that they're able to see these multicolored lights inside this greenish cloud. The cloud changed shape. It became like a rectangular cloud. I don't know what kind of military test is going to create a rectangular green cloud back in the 80s, but you tell me. And then it seemed to ascend. I'm not sure how high it went up. The co-pilot, though, shouted. He said, "This thing is teasing us." So a second Tu-134 was about 60 miles away from them, and it was ordered to approach their position. All right, so another plane to check this out. So the commander of this other plane, this is interesting. He couldn't see a thing until he got to within about 8 miles of it, really close. So, and then it just like appeared out of nowhere, it seems. It was very, very odd. Maybe, I wonder, could it cloak itself to some degree? Who knows? Anyway, it directs its light at this new aircraft. It makes zigzag movements. It lit up a rectangular pattern below it. Then it descends. It stayed below the aircraft. So again, it's playing these aerial games with it. Ground control, by the way, is in touch with all of us. And it says to this second aircraft, apparently, that Soviet cosmonauts had seen the object from their orbital station. All right. So this second crew, they're seeing multicolored lights also. They're seeing it along the side of an object of some sort. Now at some point, the object left. I'm not sure how. But within a year of this encounter, all right, the captain of this second aircraft, his name was V, I don't know his first name, V of Vladimir Victor or something like V. Goridze, Goridze. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Died of effects from electromagnetic radiation. That's what it was determined. He had developed heart disease. He had lost his job. A stewardess on the flight developed some kind of complicated skin disease. All of these people had been hit by the object's ray at some point during the encounter. And then the crew of the first aircraft going to the city of Tallinn also suffered one casualty. One of the stewards who had developed similar symptoms, I think he died or he became extremely ill, one or the other. There were ground witnesses to this case, by the way. One was a retired colonel. He described the object as basically enormous, surrounded by a greenish halo. So that was consistent with what the people up in the air saw. He also described a couple of powerful lights that came straight to the ground, and said it moved very, very slowly at times, which, I mean, too slowly, slower than stall speeds for any aircraft that we would know of. Like 30, 40 miles per hour is what this thing was moving at some point. For the record, there were UFO researchers in Russia who didn't know what this thing was. There were arguments that this was a rocket launch. Here's the real funny thing. So there was a cosmodrome at a city called Plesetsk. And apparently there was a launch at roughly that time from this city. And the argument was that this is what caused the greenish cloud and other light effects. There was speculation that this was a military experiment involving creating some kind of artificial cloud for who knows why. And then the other people argued, well, this is a genuine UFO that happened at the same time as the rocket launch. Okay, now here's the thing. Americans, I have to say, have no understanding of geography. Note, Russia is huge, huge, way bigger than the US, way bigger than Canada, guys. The area that they're talking about, Plesetsk, I looked this up on Google Maps, whatever. It's 1,000 miles away from the UFO incident, okay? I don't care how spectacular that rocket might have been. 1,000 miles, sorry, no. This is not the explanation. This is what we call reaching. And by the way, the encounter was so dramatic. It was seen by so many people that even Soviet censorship couldn't stop this one. And, we're talking, again, 1980 Soviet Union. They were not open about UFO sightings. So this did appear in TASS in early 1985. So that's all I want to say for military life and death encounters. But I just want to say, look, I'm not saying that all UFO encounters are bad. I'm not even saying that most of them are bad. Who really knows? Some seem positive, others not positive. Don't trust people who claim to have all the answers, but there definitely is something going on, and it is sometimes dangerous. There are a lot of other cases I could have mentioned. All right, this is just a reasonable beginning. The point of understanding these things isn't for me to scare you. That's not what I'm about here. It's about for all of us to be educated in the phenomenon, because this is part of the phenomenon. Guess what? Sometimes it's dangerous. So that's all I want to say. I did run a little over, partly because we had the crash, but partly I think just because it went a little over. So, my dear,
yes,
would you like to come back in here?
Yes, I would.
So again, I'd like to just thank everyone for their patience in dealing with this while we had a little. I don't know why we crashed. Tracy and I suddenly, out of the blue, just discovered that
I was like, oh,
everything.
The chat's not changing.
Let me move over for you. No.
Something's not working.
But apparently
I lost
we
Lori
lost.
and Michael, and
We lost like a minute or a couple of minutes.
I think we, excuse me, I think we lost a couple of minutes. And so if anyone joined midway through this is part 2 of Richard continued on in this one. And so because it's part 2, I'm going to do some of the things that we didn't get to in the first one, because Richard was still telling his story. So I want to thank, first of all, everyone who's been in the chat. I know not everyone made it over to this part 2, but everyone who did make it, you guys are amazing. Thank you. And everyone who was in the first part, we've had the most wonderful people tonight.
Thank you.
Everybody's been so great. Lori and Michael were commenting that as well. And we do have a lot of great questions. And sometimes we save them for other episodes that are about those things. So just want you to know that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to do, there's a lot of questions that were left over from previous weeks, and we thought about doing some of them. But my goal is to try to keep the questions at least as much on target for the general theme as possible. Not 100%, but you get the idea.
Yes. So another thing, so if you're enjoying this, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to Richard's YouTube channel, that really supports him. And you can sign up for notifications. You just click the bell right beside the subscribe button, and you'll get notified every time we go live and every time Richard drops a new video.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of a nice
Please,
thing.
yes.
So another little bit, another something I want to mention here. I want to thank the people who have supported us and Richard's work with the super chats. I didn't get to thank for that, and I really want to do that. So I want to thank Jonathan Exley from the UK, Christine, you and Mike Ozzy are just, a couple of our greatest supporters, and we just want to thank you so much for your generosity.
We really appreciate this. It's a lot of work to do this, and it's not like we do this for everyone's supporting us, but I have to tell you, we've made a decision to really throw ourselves into this full time. So you have to understand, when we wake up in the morning, we're thinking about what we have to do every single day. There's no exception. Weekends, we're still doing the same thing. It's constantly asking ourselves, what do we need to do to create a valuable content for this field? And it's a very important thing every single day. Not a day goes by when we don't think about it. Yeah. So we appreciate those of you who are able, willing to support us. I can tell you, I don't want to, there's no other line of work that I'm really good for doing. I'm not going to. So this is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. Yeah. And so we appreciate that. Yep. We really want to thank everybody. And we want to thank everyone who's not doing that as well, just for being here. Thank you for supporting in that way as well. I just want to, I'm going to embarrass you, but I want to thank you for just being. Don't make me cry right now. I'm telling you the truth. I wouldn't be doing this without you. And to understand, really turn my life around in all the important ways. And I wouldn't be here doing this if it were not for you. Thank you. So I'm just going to say trying to keep it together. Thank you. I wasn't trying to do that. This means a lot to me too. All right. So I'm embarrassed right now. I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Okay. I want to thank Jason Albert. You make it all make sense. That's what he was saying. I want to thank Casey, Pop and Caps. He says, keep it up. He's a retired agent, and he has a question for you. Yes.
Let me look that up. I didn't mean to fully acknowledge what you said. I just felt a little embarrassed.
We're good. It's all wonderful. We have work to do here. I'm the one who messed it up.
All right. Ask Richard how much he looked into how the Defense Audit Agency oversees prime and multi-tier subcontractor overheads at DoD.
Whoa.
Energy.
I want to write that. Let's just copy and save that.
Okay.
So tell me that again. The defense.
Right here.
I want to read that so I don't forget that. Ask Richard how much he looked into how the Defense Audit Agency oversees prime and multi-tier subcontractor overheads at DoD Energy. All right, that sounds like a hint or a series of clues. I will, if this person wants to write to us privately, I would actually encourage this person to do it. But can we copy that and just save it for later so I can look into that?
Okay, that sounds good.
I don't know how to answer that question. So I'll do my very best to look into it. If you're able to reach me privately, what's the best way that what's our email that we have people writing to us? What was it called? Tracy TNR Dolan. What is that? What's our Gmail?
Yeah, it's new, right?
The one that we have.
Okay, hold on one sec.
I'm sorry about this.
No, that's for this.
Is that no? But that's let them write to us there.
That's we can't use that one.
Why not?
Use the Keyhole.
All right, so write to me at keyholepub@gmail.com. Keyholepub@gmail.com. I think they could write to us there. But anyway, so hit me up there. If you've got information on this, send it to me. If there's research. Here's the good news. I'm better at looking at my emails than I ever have been before, mainly because of this woman right here who is on top of me to get on top of all of that. So let's move on to the next question. Thank you for that question.
But please be kind. I just want to say with the Keyhole, him giving out that email address, because it does get flooded, and so please be patient and please understand that happens, and so it takes us a while to get through it. Thank you, Ellis. Thank you. Do you see this right here? Just want to thank you
very much. Thank you.
Okay, so popping caps, we got you. Please ask Richard if he thinks the aliens have been scanning our nuclear capability over the years at nuclear installations.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's from that's a tough name.
That is
Guru Alvin. Guru Alvin. Guru
Alvin.
Okay, Guru Alvin. Yeah, short answer, yes, I think so. There's been enough study of this over a long enough period of time to show that I think that there's a definite correlation, a higher than average, higher than chance occurrence of these objects over nuclear technology sites and nuclear weapon sites and so forth. I mentioned the Rendlesham case earlier this evening, and that is a site where to this day they don't officially acknowledge it, but everyone knows there were nuclear weapons stored there. So answer yes. I think these other beings have been interested in our nuclear technology. And I think that these cases have existed throughout human history. But I think since we've developed nuclear technology that there's been a particular interest in that. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So Stephen Padilla, I've seen this question a few times from you. Why don't you think we have more whistleblowers?
That's a hard one to answer. What we have are a lot of people who talk quietly. There's definitely people who are, we have the alleged whistleblowers, but I assume that he's not referring to them. But
why wouldn't we have more whistleblowers? Maybe you could address military and in private companies. Some of the large corporations that probably have these sort of black ops contractors.
Well, here's the thing. I would say it's a good question on the surface, but in reality, there have been a fairly large number of these people. You and I are talking to one right now, and we're keeping this, but we are in touch with people over the course of any given year with a number of people. We interviewed gentleman from less than a year ago, and the thing is, like, they all will come to and that's just us. So they'll come to us and we'll look into them and we'll check out their story. Not everyone wants publicity. Most people, in fact, don't want publicity. So that's an issue right there.
Mm-hmm.
And
it destroys people's careers.
It destroys their careers and lives, and it can often destroy their lives.
So there's not very much motivation for people to come forward, really.
In some of my books, I don't hesitate to include accounts of whistleblowers through the decades, people giving deathbed testimony and the like. And there's quite a few. I don't know if they're called whistleblowers or not, but there's certainly no shortage of leaks. One thing that I think we ought to do, this really ought to be done, is create a compendium of these leaks. And, we could probably rate them, right, by believability. But even so, it would be, I would like to have a compendium of people who's are whistleblowers and who have identifiable, provable backgrounds in their field. So I would say if we can at least prove who you are and you've got a story, we at least can begin to call you a whistleblower. And I think there have been a lot of those folks over the years, but I don't think that their accounts have been collected in any one place. So that might seem why there's not as many as there are, but they're definitely out there. I mean, I've collected a bunch. Nick Redfern's collected a bunch. Stephen Greer's collected a number of them. And Linda Moulton Howe has collected many of them. And, prior to that, our time, people like Donald Keyhole and Coral and her husband, Jim Lorenzen, with APRO collected them. And so, we use the word whistleblower, but maybe leakers would be a better word. And there's been a lot of those over the years. But I think we need, it would be nice to collect all of these. There's quite a bit.
I guess there's always risk on the part of the researcher as well. You're always on guard for potential disinformation, things being, there's that side too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would say that probably anyone who's a public researcher in this field will be approached fairly regularly by individuals who claim to have a story. And then it's up to you as a researcher. And you got many other things to do with your life, lots of other people who may want your attention, personal obligations. Yeah, that exists as well. And then you have to decide, how much time do I make for this claim? And then next week there's another one. And then next week there's another one. And then there's people who will demand. They don't ask, they demand that I look into this particular case or that particular case. And it never ends. And so there's the danger of any researcher just kind of becoming numbed. You get this effect where it's just almost too much. Hasn't happened to me yet. I'm always willing to listen to another account, but I have to be careful too. That's the truth, because they can be very time consuming.
I think another thing that's kind of interesting about it is these days it seems as though more of the next generation is coming forward, like the sons and daughters of people who worked for military projects are sort of starting to come forward as well. I got a letter today that you don't even know about.
We'll look at that then. So siblings and children of military people, I will just say from my perspective, have long been coming out with stories. Over the years, I've collected a few myself. But I definitely want to read this one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just going to jump in. I see someone mentioning George Knapp and Bigelow.
Okay.
And we talked about this earlier.
We did. And I think we all were like, yes, do that. That would be great.
So just to repeat, so George Knapp is a very good connection to Robert Bigelow, the billionaire who's very interested in UFOs. And I've said a number of times, I've never spoken with Robert Bigelow. I would like to. And it's true, George and I are on very friendly terms. We've always been very cordial, and we have a very high regard. George Knapp, a good way in for me to talk with Bigelow, if that were ever to happen. Hopefully one day it will. We'll see. Okay. I know it's getting late, by the way, and I don't. What do we have there, Mike?
No, it's okay.
Okay, we're going to skip through. Tracy's being the editor.
Well, it's not that I'm being the editor. I want everyone to know. It's not like I'm saying no to these questions, yes to these questions. Sometimes we want to keep it on topic, like we were saying before. And then we have a record of all the questions, and we can go back when we have a topic and look for your questions. So there's actually a method to what we're doing here. So please don't be offended if we don't get around to your question on any particular day.
All right, cool.
But so
I think we'll do one more. How about that? Because I think we need to wrap this up.
Question.
It's a little late. It's a little late.
This is an interesting comment. Okay, here's an interesting comment I want to give you. Las Vegas drones. I've had an encounter while in
New York, NTC.
So I am in South California. I
right.
reported to my chain of command and was told to shut up. So that's while you were telling your stories.
NTC, Nevada testing, maybe even Nevada testing facility. I'm not
But
sure.
obviously, this is someone. Oh, I guess that's not obviously military. Chain of command couldn't really be.
So I'm not really sure what to say about that. I mean, there's a lot of advanced, a tremendous amount of, advanced tech that's coming out of that whole region. What I don't know is, like 20 plus years ago, we had leaks of the so-called version of the alien reproduction vehicle come out of, Nellis facility that was leaked to hard copy in the mid 90s. I think a lot of you might remember that. And what I don't know is what they're developing out there now. I think that would be interesting to get some kind of good journalistic work in terms of what the technology that they've got out there now. So we have time for one more.
Can you comment on Project Dinosaur? Do you know Project Dinosaur?
Yeah, if I'm remembering it correctly, dinosaur, that's not the way it was spelled, but it's dinosaurs from like 1960. And I'm not expert on this. It was a very highly advanced aerospace aviation project that did involve disc-shaped prototypes. And how far it went, I think that's got its own wiki page. With all of these, the question is there's a public version of a program and then the black version of the program. So there's a very good chance that Dinosaur went on to have a major life of its own in the black budget breakaway civilization. That's a possibility under a different name. It wouldn't shock me in the least.
Okay.
I'm surprised that I remember that, but yes, that's the dinosaur I think that they're referring to.
Okay. I think it's time.
I think it is time.
I think it's time.
I feel bad about the crash.
Yeah,
we
so
both feel bad.
That happened. I have no idea why that happened.
Don't know why.
And we didn't realize at first. So sorry about that. But
let's blame the CIA on this one or the NSA. I think we were getting a little close to the bone here.
I don't know.
Talking
we
about
were
shooting
getting
an
in
alien,
there.
and
It was getting
they were
really
like,
good. We were all enjoying it.
let's
And all
take
of
him
a
out.
sudden, boom, gone. Nothing.
Or maybe I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi. We haven't had this ever happen though before.
No, and we upgraded
just
the Wi-Fi. So a total blackout like that was just really unexpected. So sorry about that. But I think we're gonna wrap up for tonight. And I know we're pushing Richard to maybe do another little live show this week.
Oh yeah, we'll bank something out. We'll do another live one. Don't know when to announce it, but and it won't be an hour and a half, please. But we'll do something. And I'd like to do something a little more casual, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Maybe not even from the couch.
Maybe it will be a casual one. Maybe we'll do it outside or something.
Maybe.
But anyways, this is the regular time. So every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern,
yes,
we will do this show, Intelligent Disclosure. But we might be considering adding in something else that might be a little more casual. If you have subscribed to the YouTube channel and you've signed up for notifications by clicking the bell beside it, it will alert you when we go live. So
you won't miss it.
You won't miss it.
Good.
You can always watch it after the fact as well. The chat will be running, I think, when that happens. I'm not so sure. We haven't done that before, so we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
So let's just tell them about, a lot of you already know this, but for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Richard has 2 sites.
Oh.
One is Richard Dolan Press, which has
all the books I've written and by other amazing authors. The latest one's by Dr. Bruce Maccabee called The Legacy of 1952, Year of the UFO. Great book. You can go to Richard Dolan Press for that. And then the other is our member site.
Yeah, we have richarddolanmembers.com, which is our full-time project.
we keep put a lot of information to continually update that site. We've mentioned it from time to time. So
Yeah.
just go there if you want to catch up on what we are up to.
There is free content there as well as subscriber content. So you don't have to be a member. And it is the best place to check the calendar. It's under events. That's for everyone. We have an event coming up September 14th through 16th. We mentioned at the beginning in part one. We'll mention it again. It's in Branson, Missouri. It's actually a transhumanism conference. True Legends, the conference it's called. But you can find it in the calendar with all of the links. We'll be there. There's a live stream to that if you can't make it, which is really cool. That's a new venue for us and a new topic, but we're really excited to go and check everybody out.
Transhumanism is definitely something that I'll want to return to. In fact, I think the next, in the near future, I may want to do a couple of live stream presentations on transhumanism. I'm still formulating some ideas there.
It's of great interest to both of us. So
for sure.
Both of us. Yeah, we saw some really interesting comments on that in the last show last week.
Okay.
So
that's it.
I think that's it. If you enjoyed this, please hit like and please subscribe. That really supports Richard's work. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you to Lori and Michael. You guys are amazing. Yes. And thank you to everyone in the chat. Thanks for all the love. You guys have been sending the greatest stuff.
All right.
Good
I'm
night,
reeling
everybody.
you in. Hook. Bring in the hook.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you. I'm trying to end this thing.